this is going to be a movie where I respond to Tom Sequitur. We've been having a small discussion in one of his movies, and we seem to have small discussions a lot. Um, and this time we were having a small discussion about whether a socialistic society or a libertarian society was better. And in a way, I believe that socialism has a very useful part to play within any society, and he disagrees with me on that. And in all fairness, I can't really blame him for his disagreement, because what we are seeing in the real world is how socialism goes wrong. But is it really socialism that is going wrong? And maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong to back the horse socialism. So I'm going to explore that a little bit. And as we were talking about this in his video about healthcare, I'm going to use healthcare as my starting point, and I'll try to keep to healthcare as much as I can. It is very possible that I will change my original thought because I try to keep an open mind. It's also very possible that I will find confirmation of my original thought, or that I might blame something else than socialism if it goes wrong. I do not know. I'm making this movie as I go along. Why am I doing it like this? Because I try to keep it fair. Because if I'm going to say socialism is the be all and end all of it, and it's great, therefore everything is great, if I hold on to that notion, then that says something about me as well. That says that my vision is bias impaired. And this is something I try to avoid. This is also something why I like to talk to Tom Sequitur, and I will have a link to his channel down below. Why? Because he forces me to think. He might not force me because he forces me physically or whatever, but his points do make sense. And don't get me wrong, I don't 100% agree with him either, otherwise I wouldn't make this video still stating myself to be a socialist. Let's see where this goes. I hope you will enjoy this little journey. To begin with, I'm going to look at something that Forbes posted in 2015. The most profitable industries in 2015. I personally thought I would find finance at the top, but health technology is outperforming it a lot. This kind of means that the health technology and the pharma industry are making more money than finance. Okay, so health services themselves are low. It isn't going to the people at the bottom, it's going to the technology developers, the makers of machines and medication. Is this then what drives the prices of healthcare? Well, probably, most likely. Why are the prices so high? I mean, they do research, that's going to cost money. They need materials to make stuff, that's going to cost money. Are all of this the reason why healthcare, the health technology, is such a profitable industry? Let's look into that, shall we? What we see is that big pharma, or the healthcare technologies, are not solely being researched by the companies themselves, but they do spend a lot of money on research. And it's estimated between 26 billion and 40 billion. There are countries that have a lower GDP than what's being spent on research in the pharma industry. So they do spend a lot of money, but they make way more. And the money they spend isn't only company money, because there's a lot of public money in research as well. So is it fair that big pharma, just to call it that for a second, is making that much of a profit on whatever they're developing? Well, that's double. I mean, I don't really think it's particularly unfair that they want to bring back the money they invest. I mean, if I invest 40 billion, I would rather to at least make 41 billion of the product. So in this, I can 100% agree with Big Pharma. I'm not happy about it, but yeah, okay, if you spend a lot of money, you want to make money. Otherwise, you will stop spending a lot of money. So initially, I agree. Unfortunately, this is also where we go wrong because it doesn't stop initially. With extended copyright laws that we have now, it's called differently. I think it's not called copyright, but I'm just going to call it copyright because I assume everyone understands what I mean. This means that when pharma company A has developed a drug to treat illness A, they can ask whatever they want because they own the patent on the medicine and no one else is allowed to make it as long as they own the patent. Now, personally, I would say, okay, this could be true for, let's say, 5 years, let's say 10 years. But after that, the patent will be opened up and other people can try and produce that medication cheaper than company A. Unfortunately, this is not what happens. Because what actually happens is that governments, especially in the US, have extended patent law and copyright for such a long period of time that company A can ask whatever they want because it's going to be a long time for someone else will find a cheaper drug that is not particularly the same. Because remember, if even our copyright holder B will find the same drug, if they manufacture it with the same materials in the same way, they're not allowed to do it because copyright is still on the patent of company A. So in a way, these extreme long copyright thingies mean that they're actually taking away a little bit of incentive for medication to be developed anew. It gets even worse than that. 2015, I think it was 2015, saw the taking over of one pharmaceutical company of another pharmaceutical company. I think it was Turing Pharmaceuticals that bought another company. And because they bought another company, they suddenly owned the right of a drug. And they jacked up the drug, the price of that drug, by 5,000% because they were the only one that was allowed to make it and sell it. This is crony capitalism in healthcare. And why can they jack up a price by 5,000%? Well, because people need to pay it. I mean, if you want to save your life, that's the cost. And this is also, and this is where I have to agree with Tom, this is also where not social medicine, social insurance is going wrong. Because social insurance will pay it. We all pay for it, therefore the prices seem to be low because we all pay for it. So in a way, is socialized medicine wrong? Well, if you look at it from the side of the Turing pharmaceutical, you will say no, because hey, because of that I can jack up my price 5,000% and people will still pay it. On a consumer side, you can say, well, actually maybe it is, because medication prices and treatment prices are going through the roof because people will have to pay it anyway, and the insurance makes sure that people will. I am now in a bit of a split because at one point this proves that socialized medicine will not work. But the problem is socialized medicine will not work not because of it being socialized, but because of the system we have surrounding copyright, the system we have surrounding big business. It's not so much that because of the insurance, people will pay whatever because they are insured anyway. It's also because companies can charge whatever they want. Is that true? Can medication be developed? No, sorry, not developed. Can medication be produced cheaper? I mean, again, if you spend 40 billion on development, I understand that you want to make some of that money back, preferably all of that money. And I'm all for you making back all of that money. But is this what happens? Well, no, it's not. To begin with, it's not so much socialized medicine that makes it too expensive. It's the combination of socialized medicine, a protected market, so it's not a free market, and copyright protection, and therefore monopoly positions. I mean, I just gave the example of a company that upped its price for a drug by 5,000%, which is extreme, obviously. But let's look at, for example, Vanda Pharmaceuticals. On the 1st of January 2016, they upped the price of a medication drug called Hedlios, which is to help blind people with sleep disorder problems, and the price went up to 148,000 a year. Well, maybe it's a very good drug and it's very expensive to make. Okay, this is, in a way, an argument. I'm sorry, but if your drug is a combination of titanium, platinum, and diamonds, then it's going to be expensive. And yes, I know it's a bit of a joke, or rather, not so much of a joke, but it's not a fair argument. But it is possible that drugs are expensive. Okay, but then this is the problem. Because the price, since its introduction in 2014, so yeah, that's 2 years ago, the price has gone up 76%. Now, this is a small drug, it doesn't have a lot of patients, but this is a symptom. I mean, if they can do it with drugs, they can do it with all drugs. So we have an increase in price. I mean, the last year it's only 10%, but in the 2 years that it exists, it's gone up 75, 76%. Why? Because they're the only one who are allowed to make it. Okay, so far this example. And guys, I will have put down a lot of links downstairs so you can read up on this stuff. Unfortunately, this comes from a Wall Street Journal thingy, and I did put the link down, but it might be a little bit difficult to get in because, well, it's a protected thingy. You can get around it, but the link I provide you probably will not get you around it. So, but it will set you there. It is the article I'm talking about, or it's one of the articles I'm talking about. You can read it. Anyway, going back to, is the pricing fair? Then it brings me to the next story. About a year ago, I heard this on the radio. The story is that Dutch pharmaceutical biotech professor, I think he's a professor, Huub Schelkens, was asked by the World Health Organization, is it possible to make certain medications cheaper? Because we have a problem. In the Western world, we have a lot of medications for situations, but in other parts of the world, like Africa, people cannot afford these medications, yet they still need them. So can we make them cheaper? So the professor thought this would be a good study group thing for school, for university. So yeah, sure, I'll research it. I'll probably not be a lot cheaper, but at least we can research it. The man told on the radio how he did not expect to be able to reach the price difference the World Health Organization asked for. And at first they didn't ask for a lot. I mean, if it would be at 90% of the original cost, it would already be a 10% profit margin that will have been gained. And not so much a 10% profit margin, but a 10% price drop. They studied and they started making certain stuff. For example, one of the medicines they actually named is palavizumab. Yeah, I know I'm bad at names. Palavizumab. Okay, there we go. And that's a medication given to babies when they're just born, because it can prevent them from dying. The medication in Europe costs about 4 to 5,000 euro per month. In America, it's a little bit more expensive, but yeah, that's the American system. But in Africa, they cannot afford 4,000 euro a month. So can it be made cheaper? And they started researching it, and yes, it could be made cheaper. Okay, so how much cheaper? Well, that's the thing. A lot cheaper. He was amazed that it would be 90% cheaper. I mean, in the US, you pay 9,000, and as I said, in Europe, 5,000. But the way they set it up, it's a biosimilar version, and it can be produced for 250 US dollar per treatment. I'm sorry, but how the fuck is that possible? How come a medicine is so freaking expensive when they can make it, or at least something similar, okay, fair enough, for $250? How dare they ask nearly $10,000 for it? But people will pay it, especially in the Western world, and especially with socialized health insurance, because prolonging life is what we do. This is what the whole game of humans is staying alive. And these big pharma is basically making a mockery out of it. Okay, so I started, is this something that socialism is doing wrong? Is socialism to blame for the increase in the price of medicine and healthcare? And in a way they are, but they are not because of socialism, they are because of crony capitalism. And I cringe a bit to call it even capitalism because it isn't capitalism. Capitalism is being the best in your market by being the best in your market. But what we are seeing is these people, these companies, are not the best in their market because they're the best. They're the best in their market because they are protected. And the medicines that they are protecting to sell at whatever price they have been developed partly with public money. I know this is not an argument against Tom Sequitur's preference of liberalism, because liberalism is against this too. Maybe it's only an argument to say, well, it isn't all socialism's fault. I'm not sure if that's a strong enough argument. I still think that socialized medicine is a good way to go. But the problem with humans is that humans are corruptible. And the downside of any socialistic system is that very corruptibility of people. So I still think socialism might be a good idea, but we have to keep our eyes open. Socialism in healthcare does not work at the moment. Why does socialism in healthcare not work? Because of the corporate protections, the plutocracy ruling it. This is unfortunately worse in the US than it is in Europe, but we see this in Europe too, and it's getting worse in Europe too. Is socialism the answer? Is libertarianism the answer? The truth is, I don't know. What I do know is that there will be no answer unless we remove the protection that the pharma industry is currently enjoying. So coming back to the start of the thingy, am I here saying that Tom is right, or am I here saying that Tom is wrong? And I can't say either, actually. I can believe that within a true liberal system, it can be affordable too. I think it will be more affordable in a social system, not socialistic, social system. At the same time, though, a social system will be more vulnerable to corruption, to plutocracies, to crony capitalism. Am I against capitalism? No, I'm not. I'm against crony capitalism. Because what we're doing with crony capitalism is we are in a position where no one can touch us. We can do whatever we want, and fuck you if you disagree. Would liberalism be a better idea? Would socialism be a better idea? Would fascism be a better idea? In all fairness, why did I add fascism to that? Because I think everything would be a better idea than corporatism, than a plutocracy. Because in a plutocracy, everyone but the very rich lose. Okay, so now I made this movie, and I still can't say whether socialism is better or libertarianism is better. I think the best would be a mixture of the both, because I don't think you should put all your money on one horse, I guess. Feel free to disagree with me and let me know what you think. Criticism is, as usual, very welcome. Oh, and I've been advised is a better word, to do the following. Please like, subscribe, and what was the third one? Share. That's the one. Please like, subscribe, and share. Yeah, it feels weird asking that, but okay. Thank you very much for watching, and as usual, criticism is more than welcome. I look forward to it.